In case you missed our last episode of Life with the Polites MRL, Marriage, Relationships, and Love, here's what you missed. So my question to my family and friends that are tuning in or who will tune in is, why is that many people end up being punished in a relationship because they truly want to have a heart to care for someone? Think about that. They want to show the capacity to be a good person. They want to grow and build with someone, only to regret being a good person for the wrong person. And this is truly the world and the relationship realm that we find ourselves in. Caring is sharing is a type of effort. It's a relationship reflection of someone's interest in us. It shows our working and our laboring in the relationship that both people want to grow upon. And those who truly care for one another. And again, this is how we build into the pretense of where we're going. Those of us who truly care in forming and growing relationship in this type of effort, we're not perfect, nor we're pretending to be perfect. We're not pretending to mislead anyone, nor are we presenting an impression about ourselves that we're not. And this is where I would like to dialogue a little bit and talk about just how we get to where we're going. Because we have people that come into relationship pretending to give a feeling, an opinion, an idea of what they are passing along. I said earlier, there's always, I believe, and this is my personal opinion, a plus and a minus. It's like a battery. You have someone in the plus that really cares about forming a relationship, about growing a relationship. I said earlier, these are the people that they come in, they're not perfect, but nor are they pretending. Then on the other side, you have people that are the negative. Those are the people that sometimes, not all the times, that come in pretending or not all in, or present a particular feeling or an opinion of not all the way in of what they truly want, or an idea of what the other person is truly value and worth is. And we find ourselves in a predicament in a season today in life where that has become very, very common, very common. And here's something I want our family and friends to consider, that many people come away being rejected. I want us to think about something really clearly. Many people come away being rejected. Some come away scorned by people for being a good person. For being a good person, only to realize that no matter how good they were to the other person, it didn't make them good to them. Again, this is something that I think as we get into the conversation and the dialogue, there's plenty of meat on the bone for us to have a conversation to really talk about seeing and being aware of how these things come about. Because again, if we really, really think about it, our behavior says everything about us when we're together with someone. Our behavior does that. And when others take advantage of those who care about them, their behavior says enough about them. It's more than a reflection. It's us growing and seeing and being sensitive to those of whom we are bonding and growing with. But let's make no mistake. Let's understand some hard truth here. Many people today are okay with themselves, knowing that they are emotionally taking advantage of other people. A lot of people are okay with this. A lot of people are fine in understanding they have decided long ago, or as the relationship has went along, what their intent is or what a motive will be. They've seen the behavior, they've seen the kindness, they've seen the attributes of a person. And sometimes those things trickle in. So again, another question is, why are so many people so comfortable in abusing others and taking their kindness, taking their caringness for them as a weakness? Again, I beat this drum loud because This is real talk in relationships today. This is truly how both men and women are really combating a lot of this, because one is identifying worth, value, and another is realizing a need or an intent. I'm not saying this happens all the time. I'm not saying that. But I'm saying as we get into the discussion, we'll see how some of this evolves into it. And it's very destructive on the latter. And when I say the latter, I'm talking about the other person. But friends and family, leave a comment on how you feel about this topic, because this topic is a daily routine of life in relationships today. There's a positiveness of knowing that you're opening yourself up to someone. You want to be in a sense of agreement when you decided that you're going to come together with someone. You want to have a feeling that there is no motives or an intent as the relationship grows. And I believe that people arrive at this point due to what they themselves have experienced in their past. Because for a lot of people, that's how they get here. A lot of people get to this point that I believe, in my opinion, is that a lot of this has taken them in their own past relationship and experiences. And one of the things that I believe that is extremely true is that everyone gets that revelation. Everyone that has been hurt, everyone gets a revelation that it hurts when we realize we weren't as important to someone as we thought we were. That's a very harmful and hurtful revelation. But everyone gets there, men and women. And it does things to people that I believe that's reflective of what they carry on to the next relationship. It hurts. It hurts. It stews and it lingers. But we get to the point to where that revelation that I'm talking about only moves on. The past hurt can always resurface in a relationship. That's where I believe, and this is my opinion, where the resurfacing comes from. The fear of being hurt again comes along with the ride. Again, past relationships, that's how it originates. That's a possibility of how it resurfaced itself to bring upon this type of behavior. Unhealthy behaviors from previous relationships. That's another driver here that comes a part of the new relationship. We're trying to build something here to find out exactly how this domino comes about in a relationship. I use the metaphor of a battery. In some, not in all cases, there is a positive and there's a negative. That negative starts out, but it burns out. It burns out. It has the capacity to burn out of what it has experienced in the past. These are only assumptions, but we live in a world where this type of behavior, this type of conduct, this type of hurting people really, really happens. It really, really goes on. This really devastates someone, men or women, of how they've been hurt and let down. So I want us to be able to really think about, as we talk about how we get to where we're going, because there's still another level in which we get to really understand how do we end up here, because these types of people treat us exactly how they want to be treated on what they experience. They've experienced what they're taking other people through. Whether or not it's lasting, whether or not it's detrimental, whether or not it's something that they have not been able to unpackage, those types of people treat you exactly how they feel about you, because they've taken some of the past and previous relationship hurt that they've been rejected with them. There has to be a place to where it originates for it to continue. And for a lot of us have been there. A lot of us has experienced this. A lot of us have had to swallow that hurt pill because we have been a part of the breakdown. Not saying that we were a cause, but we saw and we realized how vulnerable and how we were taken advantage of because our feelings started to diminish. Our feelings were being ignored, rejected, and that's a very painful experience for anyone to go through because that starts the domino. That's where a lot of people went up. And why is it so painful? It's painful because many people truly care when they get in a relationship. Think about it. A lot of people, when they decide to bond a unity, I truly believe there is a sense of commitment on wanting to do so. There is a seed that's being watered that people truly, truly see a bonding, a unity, a growth, a maturity of a relationship. These are people that truly care about what they are assuming the other person wants. And when that doesn't happen, or it self-destructs or it falls apart, it occurs and it brings devastation to the other part. And the other part, and again, my personal opinion is that their feelings have to matter. Feelings do matter. Feelings do matter. Feelings are our expressions of who we are. Feelings, there are attitudes, there are behaviors, there are our thoughts, there are our experiences lived out in the open. Feelings matter, and people can recognize them. People can recognize them. So we find ourselves a lot of times when we embrace this or these things happen, we have to be mindful of where we are. There isn't a timetable how this diminishes, but it happens. I think there isn't anyone that hasn't been in any type of relationship, have been in a long relationship, that's mature in several relationships, have not seen, heard, or been a part of what I am talking about. Because it happens. It happens on a regular basis. But it's very responsive on how we live through it and come out. We come out because we have to move on and mature. But there's always the reason, how did we get there? How did we get there? Because it's hard to tell our minds to stop caring for someone when our heart still does. So again, it's a building that we go through in the process of realizing just what happened and how long it's been happening. And that's another part that we have to really come to the point to understand. Because for those of us who have indeed lived this out, and again, we have our own story, who have actually lived this out, we come through this. And the things that come through our mind while we're enduring, we all come to this particular moment where we say to ourselves, why hurt someone who only intent was to care and love you? That's how it feels. That's where we get to when the curtain is pulled back finally and it's exposed that we're being taken advantage of. There's a question mark of why. Why the hurt? Why the deception? How did we get here? How did you allow us to get there? Who online can answer that question? Who online can actually answer that question and talk about real life in regards of how this comes about and what's done to patch ourselves to move on when it really comes apart, when it's really said and when behaviors and actions become real. Now, this is my opinion, and hurting someone in this manner, I believe, is intentional. This is only my opinion. I believe it's extremely sad. I believe that it's distressing, and I believe it's painful. And again, I say that simply because it's my opinion. But yet the reality in the course of our relationship, this is what it is. This is what it is. This is real talk that goes on, that leaves both men and women in deep emotional hurt. I said everyone wants a good one until they get one, and then they're taken advantage of. They get to that point collectively, not because someone the gas ran out, but possibly because of other things that have now grown into the relationship. One thing about emotional hurt that I believe, and again, this is my opinion, emotional hurt is not like physical pain. Physical pain, you can put a patch on it and keep on moving. Emotional hurt doesn't go away, it lingers. It lingers, it runs through, and it runs along with our minds and our hearts until it's addressed, that it's confronted with, and it's dealt with in a way in which we can live through and move on. But we address what happened and how did we get there, and what's the aftermath. We live in a world that this is real talk. We live in a world where there's motive. We live in a world where there's intent. We live in a world where it's personal, and it's on purpose. And in some cases, it's deliberate. And it's walked and it's measured slow enough to turn against people. That's a mouthful. For someone to sit back that have said that they want to be in a relationship with you, and in the back of their mind, they're actually thinking and behaving in this way, towards someone who has desires to care for them. We get to this point in the relationship realm where there's not a solidified answer to it, because there's many roads that come into this. There's many avenues that comes into this. It's not a one all fits all. There's a route, there's a meaning, there's something that added up to it. I mentioned earlier about the past hurts that a lot of people have taken on the chin themselves that have turned them into this type of person. That took the pain, the devastation, and took it along with them, and find themselves again when they're up against the wall or they've had enough. This is where they're turning to. And we live in a time right now that no matter how nice we are to people, no matter how we're caring about people, it doesn't matter how we're loving people, for some people it's just not enough. And we get right back to where we are right now. We come to the point where it is extremely hard sometimes to see it coming. And again, I go back and I say what I said earlier. People who truly care about forming a unity, about forming a relationship, focus on growth, focus on binding, focus on coming together, focus on a meaningful, healthy relationship. Those that are truly, truly committed to forming such. And I'm not saying that everyone that comes in have this mindset of being personally measured to create pain and devastation. I'm not saying that, but I am saying that this particular behavior happens extremely at a high level today. The relationship wears thin. What I'm talking about when I say the relationship wears thin, when needs aren't met, the relationship wears thin. When there's a no in place of a yes, a relationship can wear thin. And I only use that as an example, but this is one of the means that we get to where we're going. When there's not a turnkey relationship where everything's automatic and all things are go, then when there is a no-go, there is an issue. There's a problem. So these are the things that I believe that we are mindful of in regards of being aware as we continue to build unity in relationships with people. You know, we're going to come across people in our lives who will say all the right words, will say all the right words at the right time. But in the end, like I said earlier, it's all about actions and behaviors. It's all about actions and behaviors that we should constantly be aware of, because that's where the rubber meets the road. Because again, let's think about it. The formulation of how we arrive means that there were behaviors that wasn't embraced. There were things done that wasn't overlooked. You know, I said at the outset that many people take kindness for weaknesses. And I truly believe, and again, I'm giving you my perspective and my opinion, that kindness, the kindness that we give isn't the same kindness that we get back. It's not the same kindness we get in return. Kindness is valued. I want you to think about that. Kindness is valued. Kindness is having gratitude for self and for others. Kindness is also strength. Strength to show someone your vulnerabilities. That's kindness. And we live in a world, I keep remiss going back to this, because I truly believe this is how we get to the name of the topic that we're talking about, because some people see that. People see, both men and women see people with value, with worth. They see people with gratitude, thankfulness for self and others. People see the strength that comes along in kindness. And unfortunately, we live in a world that for many people, that's a point of awareness for them. In many cases, I believe that an open heart at times attracts the wrong people. That's what I'm trying to say. Because they see all of that. On both sides of the fence. This is not just focusing on men, both sides of the fence. But it's the awareness that we must grow in to understand that those wrong types of people come in our lives to exploit us of our treasures of life and our kind-heartedness. That's the real part of this. That's the real part of understanding if you're being taken advantage on purpose. Because just knowing that someone desires you doesn't mean they value you. Love is not what you say, love is what you do. And we get here because a lot of people don't recognize how they got here. We get here because we take our eyes off of what we need to That is the unity and the growth that comes along together on both ends. We find ourselves in this amiss a lot of times because, and again, I don't say all of this to say that it happens in every relationship. I am not saying that. But what I am saying is that it is very, very real today. That's what I'm saying. It's very real for someone to get that type of kindness that we were talking about and take advantage of it. That's what I'm saying. It's very, very real. And it doesn't happen overnight, but it gets there. And I used the word punished earlier because in the back end, and this is just my take on it, the person who's on the other end, he or she can feel punished because they came into a relationship looking at a totally different perspective. They were looking at building and bonding and bringing together unity. And the curtains are pulled back, and there it is. And this happens, unfortunately, a whole lot in the relationship realm that we live in today. That many people sometimes regret being a good person, especially if this has happened more than once. And again, that goes back to what I said earlier, that an open heart can attract the wrong type of people. Because you have people that are good-hearted and they wear it on their shoulders. And there's nothing wrong with that because they're all about treating and loving people. But we have to be mindful that this type and these type of people are reflective of the world in which we live in. Because the people that are forming and growing the relationship, they're looking at it as a bonding and a growing effort to become one. They're not trying to mislead anyone. Again, let's just think about this. And again, I put this question out for those who may see this later. I do not believe that no two people come in a relationship pretending to mislead each other. I don't think that happens. I don't think two people come in a relationship to present a false image of both parties. I don't think that happens. I don't think they come in pretending to be something they're not, both of them. I don't believe that happens. I believe there's always, and again, this is my personal opinion, I believe there's always a sincere person. And again, I'm not saying this is how it is always, but there is a person that's sincere in what they're seeking, what their desires are, and the willingness to care and love. And both, and we have healthy relationships because we find two people that feel the same way, regardless of past hurts, regardless of past destructions, because both healthy relations can even endure their own destructions in the past, but they've seemed to gotten to the point to where growth and maturity has outlasted it. But what I am saying that we get to this point of people taking advantage of good-hearted people or good people because a lot of the times it's because of the hurt in the past that they've experienced, that there were never no healing, that the scars and the wounds never healed and they're lingered. And when the relationship gets to the point to where it may sour or a yes has turned into a no, things can happen. Things can happen. We see it, we hear it, and for many of us, we've lived through it ourselves. We have our own stories of exactly what I'm talking about. In different cases, in different scenarios, we can put our finger and say, but mine was here, but mine was there. And again, we have people that are okay with that. We have people that are okay when things aren't shaped their way of knowing that they're going to bring this type of emotional damage on someone because abusing people is not healthy, but we live in a world where it's not even an option. It's intentional. Or it turns, let me take that back. It turns intentional. Because rejection can also play a part in that. We move to another level to where we, after the hurt, after the rejection, the scorns, and after we've discovered that this was the ride, this was the roller coaster of how it ended, now how we live through what we need to live through to release the pain or have the pain be introduced as a life lesson to us to move on to bigger and better in our lives. Because that's the final chapter. That's where we understand that kindness that I spoke of earlier, of being valued and strength and having gratitude and thankfulness for ourselves and others shape the way we think, shape the way we live. And that helps us, in my opinion, to come out of it. The pain and the hurt will be part of our story to help somebody else. But how we come about it is that kindness that I spoke about. It's that kindness, is that strength that really pulls us out where someone has taken advantage of that vulnerability of how much we can care and love. It's that same strength that enables us to pull ourselves out and to move on and live. And we all get there. And we all have stories to tell on how we overcame it. But the walk or the march to get there is a very slow one. It's a very painful one. And in some cases, it's a journey where some people become very patient in regards of whom they're going to commit themselves to. And we understand this because, like I said earlier, devastation is something that lingers. Because it's hard to really fathom when your emotional ties were pure. So we understand this, but again, we have to really talk about the aftermath of what is going to allow us to move on. What is going to allow us to then take that, how people have mistreated us, the taking advantage portion, the opportunity of not seeing this coming. How do we take this and overturn it? How do we make it to where we are now a survivor, of it? And that's how we grow. That's how we move on. Because our survival of a bad relationship pertains to our future of what's best to come. Because it's an enormous learning experience that we all have to go through and all live through. But once we've been able to understand it purely, because it happens to all of us, no one's procured from it. No one's separated from it. Everyone gets to play a part in this, or have played a part of it, or some part of it, of understanding that type of hurt. But to overcome it and to see the means of how it takes you from one level of your life to the next in strength and kindness and perseverance is the next level of where we get to where we're going. Yes, it's hard. Yes, it hurts. but that's part of the journey. That's part of the journey of making us a better person. That's part of the journey of understanding and becoming more discernible of who we surround ourselves with and who we are thinking about committing ourselves to. It not only gives us an opportunity to step back a little bit and really survey what's surrounding us and who is standing before us. Because going through what I've been talking about is a very, very painful endeavor. And for people that have been through it more than once, they are extremely hard. They're extremely hard. But we get to the point to where we grow. We get to the point to where we understand that we've moved to a level to where now we're capable of seeing and understanding and abiding by the things that we should do and be aware of. Some people would say that we should not be so eager to give our all at once. And basically what they're saying is, take your time. Take your time. Let life feed you. Let the experience take you to where you believe it will take you. Take off the roller skates. Don't be in a hurry, but allow life to feed you. Grow, mature, and understand that you see all the facets of the person that you're saying that you want to be committed to. That's some of the lessons learned for those that have actually experienced it. That's on their lessons. That's what they share in regards of how they've now been able to stand and overcome and become still that good person, but a lot more wisdom and understanding. Things that they will tolerate and things that they will not tolerate. That's part of the growth. That's part of the journey. That's part of the understanding. And we get there with the full acknowledgement of knowing what it took for us to get there and why we won't go back there. Our kindness is something I believe that many people, as I said earlier, take for granted, but it's part of whom we are that makes us as strong as we are. And for people that really don't understand that, that's part of what's so attractive about purity and pure heart, is truly understanding that the person that's reflective of who you are is what's drawing can draw real people to you and in your circle. And we mentioned the big three. We spoke about valued and gratitude for self and the strength of not being weak in regards of your vulnerabilities, but being strong in the posture of living through them. We come to this point with a full understanding of the life and the world that we live in. The cautious mind, the open heart, and always aware of the wrong type of people that can be attracted to us because of who we are. Kind-heartedness, I believe, is something that, that grows within us. And as we mature, we share and we reveal more of it. It's a true purpose of a commitment of being a good person. That's why I said at the outset, everybody wants one. If everybody wants one, there has to be some value in being a good person. That's just common sense. It's just that for many people, once they've gotten one, they don't know how to maintain it, keep it, take care of it, and be committed to it. And it can be a vast amount of reasons on why. Because those that are committed have treasures of life. that goes along with their kind-heartedness. And they get to this point by the experiences, by the wisdom and the knowledge that led them to where they are. And that's where many of us must stay. I mentioned earlier, not going back, but must stay. We get to that point and we get comfortable for who we are. We get comfortable of what we've achieved through the lessons learned in life. We get to that point and we stay there because we know this is the level of promise that comes along with the treasures of life that we've lived through, that we've earned, that's been given to us through hard times and good. And it's reflective of the life that we've lived. So now we're cautious. We're aware of not just being ashamed of having the strength to show vulnerability, but being able to protect it. Because you can protect your vulnerability. You protect it by saying no. You protect it by not telling people what they want to hear. And when they don't, or let me say it this way, when they're not fed a way that's more consistent in past relationships, then you understand or you can see exactly if there's motive or intent. We understand this because a lot of us have traveled this, and it's been a hard hill to take. We've fallen, and it took an enormous amount of time to recapture where we were. And on the same note, it's very painful when we haven't matured to a level to where we can see past it, that we can understand it, and be strong about where our commitment now lies. This is a true understanding of what truly the world in which we live in now is and has been. It has not just came on the scene. There's an enormous amount of broken people that have lived through this and didn't come out. And then on the other side, there are people that have. Because it's a cycle, I believe. This is my opinion. It's a cycle that runs through people, that goes from one person to the next person to the next person. It's a cycle. It's a broken cycle. And unfortunately for them, there's pain and hurt everywhere they stop. Everywhere they leave pain, they leave hurt. And many of that can be, I'm not saying it is, but it can be by rejection. But we overcome this because we get to the point to where we truly understand our value. We're strong in our capabilities of becoming what we can overcome. And we truly get to the point to where we see ourselves as better. And once we've achieved the knowledge, the wisdom of becoming better, then we're on the scale to where we remain. We're not anxious. We're just patient. We have an effective way of hearing, an effective way of analyzing. We're not harsh. We're more quiet because we're studious. And we're understanding what surrounds us. And we're very, very, very careful. That's when I believe, again, in my opinion, how we protect our vulnerability. Well, I thank you. I thank you for this episode of Life with the Polites. And my ask is that you guys, when you get an opportunity to listen to this, if this episode, this topic bring something to you of value, I like you to send it to somebody. I like you to send it to somebody, and the both of you talk about it and send it to somebody else. Because how we grow together. How we get to where we're going, it's unity. We all get there together if we have an ear to listen or if we're teachable. And what our miss is to help and to support, to leave the pain behind and become the better that we all can be.